So I plant, half a row, first chestnut trees on the farm, mid-April 2022. Well, our western edge borders hundreds of acres of conventional industrial agriculture. Um, and this was the year that he had planted, uh, let me recall, it was soybeans in 21. So by the time they harvest, you can't get in a cover crop then. Right, weeds and stuff have grown up in it over the winter and spring. So they got herbicided. But because it's to the west, the wind comes through and blows through our land. And so we got herbicide drift. And right, chestnuts have big old leaves, and they just caught the herbicide and completely defoiled within like 3 days.
This is the Farm Hop Life Podcast, a traveling homestead family. I'm Matt DeRosier. On the Farm Hop Life Podcast, we learn what it takes to grow your own food from everyday people. Could be a college student, grows tomatoes and salad greens on their apartment patio, a former VP of marketing for Del Taco now raising cattle in Montana, or someone who hasn't had a homestead in over 10 years. This show is aimed at teaching you what it takes to make homesteading work for you, that we all make mistakes, we all have bad days, but we can reach out and help one another thrive, and giving you the confidence needed to go feed yourself. You guys moved there a year and a half, 2 years ago or so?
Yeah, we moved in November 2021.
Nice. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, year and a half. We had spent the previous 6 years in Los Angeles. So my wife and I, we met at Virginia Tech, and when we graduated, we were going to move to Texas, but then she got into graduate school at Pepperdine. And, I'd asked her to move halfway across the country to Texas, so figured might as well just go the other half. And so we spent 6 years there, and right, it kind of stereotypically, we were thinking about it before, but then the pandemic, we got married in 2020, thinking about where we wanted to be long term, move back east, be closer family. It just seemed natural to move on back.
Sure. So, man, LA to are you in like a rural part of Maryland, or I've never been to Maryland, so I'm not really sure what the.
Yeah, so we are technically rural, but one thing I like about Maryland is you can go from urban to rural very quickly. So, right, we are 15 minutes outside of the second largest city in Maryland, which is, not huge. 75,000 people. But then we're an hour to DC, 45 minutes to Baltimore. So, like, we're not out in the woods by any means. But I also can't see my neighbors. So for a lot of people, that would be considered rural.
I consider that rural. I can see my neighbors right now over there, and if I had a window over here, I'd see those neighbors. So yeah, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah. One thing was funny is when we were still in LA telling people we wanted to move back east, and we were like, oh, we're thinking about 10 to 20 acres. They're like, 10 to 20 acres? You're rich? And I was like, whoa, real estate works completely different outside of Los Angeles than here.
That's really funny that they'd have no idea what the different markets are.
Oh yeah, like the concept is just like, it's just like exponentially more expensive there. And so even though they know it's cheaper other places, like they don't fully understand, like,
sure,
you can just buy acreage for like not as many zeros as like a 2-bedroom house here.
Right. I mean, last week somebody commented on something I posted on Twitter, and then he said that you can get like 5 to 10 acres for like $6,000 somewhere in Arizona. I can't remember exactly where, but like, if you want acreage, like for cheap, it's available. It just might not be exactly what you want, but if you want acreage and you want it bad and you want it cheap, well, there you go.
Oh yeah, there's there's pros and cons to like every place.
Mm-hmm.
You can't beat LA's weather, but like you can't have acreage there. Like it's just not possible.
Right. It doesn't exist. Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're spending someone else's money, right?
Man, I just don't think it's possible. Like even if you're a billionaire, just like maybe 5 to 10 acres out in like Calabasas or Camarillo, but like right there's not just like 20 acres of available space in Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So getting moving from LA to Western Maryland. Western Maryland, is that right?
Yep.
Did you guys like have a garden or anything like in LA, or did right when you got to Maryland, do you like hit the ground running, or did it all start before that even?
Oh, well, to go like, you know, to the beginning, as they
Sure.
say. So my granddad, as many Heizers as, we know, they farmed in the Shenandoah Valley. Um, but then my dad went to Virginia Tech and he became a bovine veterinarian.
Oh,
And after graduating, he got a job in Maryland, and that's what brought my family there. Uh, and, you know, he was the only one in his family that, his generation that didn't have a farm. So when I was in the second grade, we bought 26 acres and he started a little beef farm. And got that Grand Champion steer
nice.
banner. We raised steers, sheep, pigs. We also had Christmas trees. Uh, so, like, right, just a little hobby farm. But what was funny is that growing up, I was always going to be like the city boy, like, go off to college in the big city and do big things. While my brother was, go to Kansas State and study dairy science, or Oklahoma State and, study animal science. And then I ended up in LA. But when we were in LA, you know, I came across like the work of like Gabe Brown, Mark Shepard, um, Masanobu Fukuoka, just like permaculture, regenerative agriculture. This was like 2015, 2016. And it was really like starting to, make waves in the media. And, it just made a lot of sense to me, as someone that grew up in the agricultural community that, saw both the good and the bad with, like industrial agriculture. Uh, and so then, started a little compost pile in our little back patio, grew a couple plants, saved a kumquat tree. Uh, so I was doing a little gardening, but like in many ways, it was just like, just a little hobby,
Yeah, you kind of
hit
screwed
a
around.
patio in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
Uh,
nice. When you were saying that you were gonna go off to the city, and your brother was gonna go to Kansas State, was that something like your choice, or was that gonna be like that was chosen for you?
oh no, completely my choice. My parents couldn't control me if they wanted to. I was always the firstborn, independent. Uh, you know, thought did what he wanted.
Sure.
Uh, and it wasn't like right. I enjoyed you know doing the steers and stuff, but it's like my brother was the one that was into the breeding the heifers, and uh, you know he did all the sheep, all the pigs. I was just kind of doing it just because like it was good for us job. Taught us responsibility. Got to go around to cool fairs and stuff. But it wasn't like something that I would spend my time doing outside of, raising the steers, while my brother was like all into it. And then now I'm the one with the farm and he works in wealth management.
What? What a twist. That's pretty good. Oh man. So So you said you got into Mark Shepard and Gabe Brown and a few others. What, why? What motivates you to do what you do, and what got you interested in those people in the first place?
Well, interest in the first place, like I said, growing up in the agricultural community, I saw like the benefits, but also like the costs. Like, when my dad would take me to work and we'd ride around to all these dairies, Western Maryland, PA, Virginia, like, right. I never saw anyone like abuse a cow or anything. It was like, right, their livelihood. Like they cared about their animals, they cared about the farm and stuff. But at the same time, I saw the industrial chemicals, the manure pits, you know, these externalities that often aren't accounted for. Uh, and, you know, like anything, things can be improved just because we do something one way, whatever it's, you know, medicine, county government, whatever it is. Like, you know, that story of humanity is constant, steady improvement. And so when I stumbled upon like regenerative agriculture, permaculture, ecology, whatever you want to say it, these disparate fields that all kind of come together, it just, made a lot of sense to me, as someone that, does biology for a living and, uh, can appreciate microorganisms as well as someone that has raised cattle. Like I said, we did the Christmas trees, so I guess we did a little agroforestry. It just made a lot of sense to me to view it and the land and the water and the air as a system that works together cooperatively. And then, now I'm at the point that it just makes like, why wouldn't everyone live this way?
Yeah.
Like you talk to people on the street and they'll be like, oh man, I need to exercise more. Okay, well then go homestead. Oh, I want to spend more time with my kids. Oh, okay, go homestead. Oh man, I need to get outside more. Oh, go homestead. Oh man, I want my kids to like know math and science, but also like learn practical skills. Okay, we'll go homestead.
Right.
Right. It's just like, I don't understand, of course I understand, like, right. But to me, just living on a piece of land, making it your own, stewarding it, trying to take care of it, building something that can be passed on to future generations, like it just makes total sense. Like that, this is what I want to spend my time doing. And I can't imagine not doing.
Right. Yeah, I definitely feel you there. Just planting. So we finally, after a lot of analysis paralysis, we finally have a plan for what we want to do, where we're going to put things here. We've been here. This would be our third year, start of our third year. And so like we just planted trees, the first half anyways, this weekend. And now it feels like we're taking ownership of like stewarding the land, right? Like if we're successful in doing this, these trees should be here a long time, like after I'm gone. And so like you're kind of thinking of like moving the whole property forward, because it's like there's some vegetation. It's like kind of like crappy grass, but a lot of like really nice like sagebrush, but that has some habitat, but it's not diverse enough. And so by planting trees and a couple other like layered plants like below it, we're gonna expand that system to do a couple of things for us, but also for the property as well.
Yeah, I think you posted an interesting looking kids book that now I have to get this morning, about like, I haven't read the book obviously, but from what
Sure.
you posted, it looked like showed all the life that a tree supports. And like, right, that's, tying back into, what I said, it just makes so much sense when you approach it from the right way, that like, right, if these principles can be communicated into with a children's book, like that's how simple and like straightforward it is when you can really get down to it. The tree supports life, purifies water, it makes oxygen, it puts carbon into the soil. It really is a system that has evolved over millennia to use every single product so that there's no waste. It's all balanced. That doesn't mean that, there's not sometimes disease or pests, famine, etc. But like it balances. It's a weighing machine. Over time, it takes care of itself.
Right. Yeah, that book actually came from Imagination Library, if you know what that is. You just sign your kids up and you get a book in the mail every month for free.
Okay, I do not know about that. I will have to look into that.
Yeah, Dolly Parton started it, and I think they get like a bunch of like
Really?
stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so
Wow.
that just happened to be this month's book was I think that just came a week ago too. So it was pretty fitting that we were planting trees on the day that book came in the mail. So that was a fun one to read.
Planning. I think I remembered Siberian pea shrub.
Yeah, Siberian pea shrub, Rosa rugosa, and then 2 different kinds of black locusts. So where I live, I'm on a hill, and right below me is an irrigation ditch. Now I don't have water rights. I can't, even if I had water rights, I couldn't get water out of that ditch because I'm above it. It's just their policy. Doesn't make sense, whatever. So it's a pretty steep drop off, and you could fall, I don't know, 30 feet into the ditch, like downhill. And so I'm planting this hedgerow. Sounds like similar to what you're doing. But mine's more to prevent people like falling into it, and also create a windbreak and probably eventually noise as soon as like when the trees start to like leaf out, because it's not terribly busy where we are, but you'd like to feel a little bit more of the country, right?
Yeah. I mean, so you're in Montana, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I can't even imagine that. Total respect to you. Like, right, I have it easy in Maryland. Like, right, it's not too hot, it's not too cold. It's pretty temperate here.
Sure.
But are you in Western or Eastern Montana?
Western. Much
Oh,
nicer.
man. So, I have to say, Montana was like one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. When we moved from Los Angeles back to Maryland, when we moved out there, we kind of took like the southern route, 40 to 30 to 2010. So when we were moving back, we had friends in Seattle. So we drove all the way up to 5 and then took 90, 80, 70 all the way back to Maryland. And we stopped in Glacier National Park and, drove through most of Montana. And
Yeah.
man, that place is beautiful. But what I was not prepared for was like, right, we were there mid-June and we entered West Glacier and you couldn't get to East Glacier because like the passes were still frozen.
Yep.
And like intellectually, I understand Montana is North United States
Yeah.
and that the Rockies are tall, but it's like, it's mid-June and it's just, I can't imagine working that climate.
Thankfully, I'm not that high up in elevation. I'm only like 3,500 feet or so right here. But
Only 3,500.
well, I'm coming from Minnesota, so it's like 1,000 there. And but yeah, if you want to give yourself a little bit of an anxiety attack, look up on YouTube. So that road through Glacier going to the Sun Road, that's what it's called. It's really long. The Sun Road snowplow. And so you watch those guys, how they plow the snow up that pass that goes through Glacier. Those guys are nuts. Like they're like in like bulldozers trying to move snow around like at like a 45-degree angle, and it's, dude, my hands like get sweaty just thinking about it.
Yeah, like it takes a very special type of person to, you know, do something like that. Just
Yeah.
everyone I met in Glacier seemed, you know, to be a character. And I mean that in like a very nice way. They were
Yeah.
all extraordinary people. I'm just like, man, this is impressive what you're doing out here.
Yeah. Some people are just wired a different way. That's for sure.
But man, even at 3,500 feet, your frost date must be like end of May, June.
Uh, if I give myself a little buffer for like freak weather events, it's like June 7th.
To see, like, right, you're talking about, I can't imagine that. So like you really have to be on top of your planting, right?
Kinda. Yeah. I mean, I should be better. I'm getting better.
Well, don't worry, I have to be better too. I, you know, I've messed up so many, so much stuff.
We're gonna get there, that's for sure. So in your year and a half, what kind of stuff have you started building, and like what's worked well?
So one of the things we're trying to do is just maximize diversity with a focus on native species. So we have planted chestnuts, pawpaws, American persimmons, blackberries, honeyberries, raspberries, elderberries, a gambit of flowers, coneflower, black-eyed Susan. Planted hazelnuts, tulip poplars. I got little mini black locusts going. Uh, we're really just trying to black walnuts, as much as possible. And what has worked so far, the chestnuts are growing fantastic. The pawpaws are growing fantastic. I will say that I support them a little more because they will probably be the quote unquote cash crops of the farm.
Sure.
But I think by volume, uh, our first year we had the most squash produced. It got to the point where my wife was like, "You're not allowed to plant squash next year. I need a hiatus." Um, don't tell her. Sorry, honey, if you're listening, I've already planted the squash for the year. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I don't fully ascribe to the Mark Shepard stun method, sheer total utter neglect. I do like to provide some support to the perennials. Uh, but for the most part, you know, we've had a lot of things die. But for the most part, we've had a lot more success than I was kind of, I'd never really planted a tree. I'd raised the cedars and stuff, but like plants were kind of new.
Right.
And so I am happy with the amount of casualties that we've had.
That the body count's lower than expected.
Yes. And then like, right, all the chestnuts have made it, even through what I call the Great Chestnut Incident of 2022.
Oh no.
So, right, I'd gotten our first chestnuts, and right, like I said, this is gonna be one of the important trees. Like we talked about, they're gonna live for centuries. First trees we planted on the farm, and I planted them mid-April 2022 along our western edge. So the long-term goal is to plant these rows of chestnuts in this field and then run the cattle underneath with small electric fence paddocks for rotational grazing. So, right, I want to get the trees in first so they can start growing so the cattle don't tear them up as easily. So I plant, half a row, first chestnut trees on the farm, mid-April 2022. Well, our western edge borders hundreds of acres of conventional industrial agriculture. And this was the year that he had planted, let me recall, it was soybeans in 21. So by the time they harvest, you can't get in a cover crop then. So weeds and stuff have grown up in it over the winter and spring. So they got herbicided. But because it's to the west, the wind comes through and blows through our land. And so we got herbicide drift. And chestnuts have big old leaves, and they just caught the herbicide and completely defoiled within like 3 days. And the guy was nice about it. He was like, I'll reimburse you and stuff. And I was like, well, I don't even know if they're dead. They're defoiled, but they're not dead. And so I was on pins and needles for multiple weeks, but they eventually recovered, and they're growing just fine. But these were the first trees I'd planted, and I'm like, oh, damn, Patrick, you just killed your whole first set of trees. We've been talking about chestnuts for years, and you just killed them all. But thankfully, they have recovered, and yeah.
I'm surprised. they bounced back.
Yeah, I didn't. I really didn't know. Because when I say they completely defoiled, I'm not sure what he used. It was probably some desiccant, because these things dried out to crisp and fully brown leaves within the week. And this is first week in May at this point, and they look pathetic. But I just left them, kept to my watering schedule, and they bounced back. And they're been up there. They're budding and growing out leaves this year, so they're fine. Whew.
Good. Maybe you'll need to plant something in front of those to catch the drift next time. So your chestnuts will produce.
So what I did, so they grew back with the leaves, but I didn't protect them or anything. And the deer around here really like chestnuts. So we got some damage on the bark. And so this year I went and did 3 T stakes around them in a triangle, and then wire meshed them. But then I took a piece of plastic, like that construction plastic, and just did that around the wire mesh, and essentially made just a very big, fat, tree tube.
Yeah.
Right. But in this case, it's so big that the tree's not touching it or anything. It's just sitting there, kind of in the middle. And so I'm hoping that the mesh will keep the deer out, and the plastic will keep any potential herbicides out.
Oh, okay.
For now, it's working, but we'll see. And if not, we will adjust.
Nice. That's a good plan. You had mentioned a cash crop. Now, is that to sell or to eat?
Well, I mean, of course, we'll eat some of it, but so pawpaws in Western Maryland go for $12 a pound, which is it's a native fruit, but it's quote unquote exotic.
Sure.
Hard to find, and they sell out. So one of the biggest pawpaw farms in the world, it's 1,000 trees. It's an orchard. It's over in Westminster, Maryland. And I went over to help them with the harvest. This Davis family, that's what they're called. And they're well known through the pawpaw world. I just emailed them. I was like, hey, you need help with the harvest? Because every single pawpaw in the world ripens between the last week of August and the first week of October. And it comes quick. And they were like, yeah. And so I went over and helped them for a couple of days. And they got 1,000 trees, and they push the trees. There, this is what they do. This is a professional orchard. So I would estimate they probably get 40, 50 pounds of fruit per tree times 1,000 trees. And they sell it all. They have to deny people. And they don't even sell it for as much as they could. But they feed a lot of the pawpaw festivals, farmers markets out in DuPont, Circle, and DC. Apparently, you can get pawpaw for $20 a pound, and they sell out every week. Because it's a little niche fruit. So if anyone doesn't know what the pawpaw is, it's North America's largest native fruit. The eastern United States is the only place it grows, from the shoreboard to about, eastern Kansas and then North Georgia up to Toronto. Tastes like a combination of a banana and a mango.
That seems
And
pretty
it's
good.
got a real, yeah, real. It depends on the cultivar. So it's like apples. They have different cultivars. So something like a Shenandoah is a very big fruit, very soft and banana-y, while something like a Allegheny is smaller fruit and more mango and a little more firm. Um, so there's some variants, but right, it's a very unique flavor, very unique fruit, uh, and yeah, so like they sell completely.
Hmm.
Uh, so right, not, I don't care about the economics of the farm. Right, my wife and I have day jobs. That's
Sure.
how we're funded. Uh, this is, like I said, it's just I can't imagine living any other way. I do it just because I want it. But if there's an easily grown, something that can bring some income to fund my crazy ideas, and the fruit tastes good, might as well plant a couple of them. So
Yeah.
we will be, we're getting 10 more trees in June, so we'll be up to 20 pawpaws by midsummer.
Wow. So what's some you mentioned some failure stuff that you screwed up. Uh let's hear some of those. What hasn't worked so far? Or yet, I guess.
So like, right, we were just talking about the tea steaks around the chestnut.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did that this year, I reasoned that I want the so right, 3 tea steaks is a triangle. I want the base of the triangle, the 2 tea steaks on the wind side, because, that would be 2 more strong. Well, I have come to learn that that was the opposite of what you want. You want the 1 tea steak on the wind side, so like it cuts
The break.
like
Yeah.
a ship's about, yeah. And so I had 2 friends come over and we planted all this year's chestnuts. And right, we tea staked them, did the mash, did plastic, and then that night, might have been the next day. It was within 48 hours. We get like a freak storm with 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and yeah, it would have been nice to have that front tea stake cutting through that wind, because a couple tea stakes got pushed apart, torn out.
Jeez.
I had to go and there was no damage to any trees. There was like none. I probably made it sound worse than it was, but I just had to go and make some adjustments. But right, I learned a lesson. Now you want the point of the triangle pointing towards the wind. What else? Well, think about the herbicides that can drift. Um, I mean, I've killed so many plants. Again, I acceptable number of casualties, but like half my hazelnuts died the first year. Don't know why. We're still gonna plant more. Uh, Even this year, I got a little frisky and put some plants outside. We were getting some warm weather, and then we get a late frost, and they all died.
Dang.
A lot of times it's biting off more than I can chew. I laid some mats down, or tarps, in like December, January to make a new garden bed. And David Yonder on Twitter, or Yonder Day, I forget, he was like, that's probably going to attract the owls. And I was like, well, we'll see. Attracted a ton of owls. They like burrow
What are they?
in my plum tree's roots.
What did it attract?
Owls, like little field mice.
Oh.
But they're not mus mucosa like lab mice or like house mice. I forget the scientific name of the owls. But yeah, they're field mice. They
Okay.
look just like mice, but they don't have as much of a tail. I guess they're a little thicker. But yeah, they just burrowed all under those mats, like tear out the soil, pooping everywhere, got up in the plum trees' roots, got up in the peach trees' roots. So then I had to go and buy like this, it's called Val Scram. It's like just like lemon oil, castor oil, thyme oil, rosemary oil, like all the pungent stuff, because they have very sensitive nose. Well, then I got to spread this stuff around the entire area. You got to do it. They say, weekly for a little bit, and then
Sure.
monthly, make them get in and out. But it's just like every day is an adventure. I think I wasted a whole bunch of pasture seed this year. So when we bought this house, the previous owner was like this little old lady, but right, it was getting on time where, she couldn't take care of the place anymore. But for the previous, probably decade or so, she'd been renting out one of our fields to the neighbor. And, he asked me what I was planning to do with it that first year. And I just told him, like, right, this was February 22, and Russia, Ukraine had just happened. And they were talking about wheat shortages and all that.
Yeah.
And I already had enough to do with the rest of my acreage. So I was like, you don't have to rent it. Just, do whatever you got to do in it. Take the acreage, use it. But this year I took it back. And so, right, it was corn last year. So he had tilled it. And it was just dirt. And then, so I want to plant, I want to do the cattle. So I got this pasture seed mix from some company. And so I'm out there hand seeding it. We have a little like roller seeder, but it got clogged or something. So I was just grabbing out of the bag.
Oh, man.
And we were spreading hay, and it was supposed to rain like that weekend, and then it didn't. And then it didn't rain for like 10 days. And now I think the seed's probably all dead. So that whole field will eventually need to be reseeded again. But yeah, every day is an adventure. There's as much failure as there's success, but that's, I kind of like that. My day job is as a scientist. I like figuring things out, tinkering, learning along the way. Right. Life is not perfect. Everything's not going to go your way. But you just got to keep on keeping on, as I say.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. So the time has been short, but what would you say the biggest challenge in homesteading is that you faced so far?
Same challenge as anything, same constraints as anything: time, money, labor. There's always something to do. Just the list keeps on getting longer. One quote, Albert Camus in his diary at one point wrote something like, people say I do a great deal. I feel like I do nothing at all. I feel like I'm on this perpetual treadmill where I always got something to do. And of course, we just added a daughter to the mix. I said I work full time. We got a dog. Like it's juggling of so many things, but it's a good juggle. Like I said, it's chaos, but it's fun. It's rewarding. I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah, it's part of trying to figure out all the pieces, right? Because it's like a system. Well, your family and your daughter, like that's part of your system, right? So now you have to figure out when you have to go outside to do something, how do you fit her into the mix? And so like we were saying, like I took yesterday off of work, but I still had holes to dig for the trees that I ordered from Coldstream Farm. They get here tomorrow, and I'm like, I've got 10 holes to dig. How am I going to get this done? I ended up taking like the day off, but I still felt kind of crummy. But like my wife was running some errands, and so I'm like trying to juggle the two kids. Like, okay, what am I going to have my son do while I'm doing this? Like, what am I like? Is like does my daughter need a diaper change? What time is it? When does she need to eat? So I'm like juggling all these little parts and pieces while still trying to dig holes. And thankfully it wasn't too mentally like consuming, so I could still like keep an ear out, keep an eye out, and still make sure that they're not getting into something that they shouldn't get into while I'm just throwing a shovel in the ground. So
Oh yeah, like right. You got to develop that dad sense of just like where they are, what are they doing. I take our coon hound out of the farm with us, and he's usually a pretty good boy, but he does have a penchant for trouble. And just got to develop that sixth sense of what's Blue doing, and then soon it will be complicated with Valentine. But yeah, so your son is older, so has he started to be of some help or show interest in the farm?
yeah, last year when man, this is so awesome. This is such an awesome dad moment. We're moving plants from inside to outside. We're transplanting them. And so I was constantly going in and out, and without even ask, I get to the back door, and there he is waiting for me with a plant in his hand. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. I was so excited. He just, whatever dad's doing, whatever mom's doing, he just wants to be a part of it. And so if you're just working, like, yeah, their attention spans are kind of short and they get kind of bored or they don't find it that interesting. Like, that's fine, but they'll do it for a second. Like we were throwing a mix of native soil and some good compost from last year in the holes to plant the trees. And so he would take this little garden trowel and put it in the wheelbarrow where all the mix was, and then dump it in the hole. He did that a couple times, and he just ran off to go do something else. And like, that's fine. So, I mean, he played along for a little bit and wanted to go, I don't know, whatever he was doing, throw rocks at something. So,
Oh yeah, I one of the many reasons that I kind of wanted to get back to the farm is because as growing up on a farm, like I can't imagine like not being able to like run around and like just get into trouble. Like not like nothing severe, but just doing kid stuff, like my brother and I built like a multi-story like hunting stand, like just up in some trees in the back. We used to jump off grandma and granddad's milk barn. Like they had this little like calving area that was like probably 8 foot off the ground. Like right, we're just going out there, jumping off that, like digging holes and like building a rock wall and like doing trench warfare with our cousin. Just and right when we pissed our parents off, they were just like, go outside, run, just don't come back till dinner. And like, right, you just get into so many shenanigans. So like, I can't wait to see what Valentine, how many headaches she causes me having to find her on the farm. But like, I know it's just going to be the best for her.
yeah, they, when they're outside with you, doesn't matter what you're doing. It could be work. You could just be like dinking around, picking up sticks. There's always like something to learn. Like we found, I was moving a pile of brush and I'm like, there's probably going to be mice under here. Can you watch real close and see if, like, let me know if there's a mouse. So I start moving the pile and he goes, there's a mouse. And I'm like, I didn't see it, but point to where you saw it. And so he like points and I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That looks like kind of like a mouse hole. And so I keep moving it and it runs out and runs away. And I go, I bet there's baby mice in here. And so we carefully like move it and there's like a bunch of little like baby mice. And, and so he goes, what are like, he's watching them. And I'm like, Daddy's going to have to go like move these. Unless I said I have to go take care of them. and I he wasn't watching. I made sure he wasn't watching, but I smashed him and I gave them and I threw them to the chickens. And he goes, where'd they go? I said, I just had to put them somewhere else. And so I fast forward to last weekend, my parents are here and we're moving another brush pile. And sure enough, there was another mouse there. And so but I was careful about this one. I caught it under my boot, but I didn't kill it or anything like that. I just had it pinned so he could take a look at it. Well, I picked my boot up so he could see it just run away. And because I wasn't going to, he was staring right at it. I wasn't going to smash it right in front of him. So what does he do? He takes his boot and smashes it. I don't even know where he would have found that. I don't know. Maybe he was trying to be gentle like I was, but screwed it up. I don't know. But yeah, I found that really funny that I'm trying to be so careful and he just goes and stomps it. But I did tell him mice have disease. That's why we don't pick them up and stuff like that. So maybe he had it in him we can't have these here.
Yeah. I mean, it's little stuff like that though, right, we talk about oh, you want to learn about science and practical skills, and this is where
Mm-hmm.
just homesteading or land stewardship just makes so much sense to me. Right, you can, in the same day you can have your kid learn about a mouse and what it does in that environment and what life it supports, right, the hawk eats it, then the hawk poops out this nutritious fertilizer all
Mm-hmm.
over your land, wherever you want to go for it. But the same day, right, you could teach them how to drive a tractor or do some woodworking. Right, when it came to my time to get my driver's license, passed the test with flying colors because I've been driving gators and tractors and, farm trucks my whole life.
Yeah.
And then when we got the high school biology class and, learn about reproductive system, right, my dad's been doing embryo transfer with me. I used to be holding the luteolice and the GnRH and pulling out the syringe when he's doing a herd check. It's oh, I know what gonadotropin is. I know what estrus is and all this stuff. It's just such a being on some land and just, observing it, being part of it, and really just taking it seriously and trying to understand it. It's just, the best learning opportunity. And so I'm glad that I'm able to provide that for my kid, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to something you said at the beginning where you're go homestead. You want to do this? Go homestead. You want to do that? Go homestead. And it serves multiple roles for the family unit.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's just I can't imagine doing it anyway. Oh, you want to eat you want to support local food systems? You want to know where your food comes from? Go ahead, go homestead. Have a garden. Oh, you want to leave something of value for your kids. Okay, well, go out, homestead, build it. It fulfills, checks so many boxes that I can't imagine not doing it. And it doesn't have to be 12 acres, doesn't have to be 100 acres. Right, I always tell people, if you go out and grow one tomato plant on your balcony, you're growing more than probably 50-60% of people. Just the simple act of moving from a pure consumer to a producer. And it doesn't even have to be plants or animals, right? Even if it's just knitting sweaters from a local yarn produced with local sheep, woodworking, butchering, blacksmithing, whatever practical skill, stewardship, just taking responsibility over your local system of material and community, whatever it is, right, it doesn't matter as long as you're going out trying to do well by your family, your community, whether it's a little garden or a huge farm, like that's the right step.
And it kind of ties into energy flows too. So, I mean, it's all about like the little things. So reducing your waste stream as well. We have a chicken bucket. Anything that can go to the chickens goes in there. Not all the stuff like they can eat. Like, I mean, yeah, like a steak bone, they can pick off all the meat and scraps, like stuff that I can't get. But the bone, they're not going to eat that. But it ends up in the compost pile at the end of the year and broken down. And then we have like stuff that we can burn, just like paper or whatever. And then the rest is like garbage, like diapers and stuff that like bottles that you can't, like we don't have like recycling here for whatever reason. Too costly probably. But just stuff that we can't use here. But the paper, I suppose like you could soak it and like get it wet and throw it in garden beds and do something else with it. I guess you could like shred it also, throw it in the chicken coop. You know what? That's a good idea. I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna get a paper shredder and start shredding that stuff. Yeah. But we go through a lot of it. We got, I don't know. There's always something coming in the mail. So.
Oh yeah. So my wife, she works in like the medical industry, and so because of HIPAA, we have to have a paper shredder so that she can shred all of her stuff. And I throw that all, I go and get some horse manure from a horse farm up the road, nice nitrogen source. Mine was wood chips, that shredded paper, mowed grass, all of our kitchen scraps and stuff. But yeah, so I'm going to say something that's going to be real obvious once I say it. It's going to make me sound kind of stupid. Every single atom that is on Earth has always been on Earth and like will be on Earth. We occasionally get a little comet or asteroid in. We send some satellites up. But like for the most part, everything that's here is here. There's not any more of it. And so when you're trying to think about nutrition and fertility, you have to think about every single element. You get carbon from the air, you get oxygen from the air. Hydrogen is like the little currency that's everywhere. But everything else, like magnesium, phosphorus, nitrogen, like if you're making 10 pounds of food and send it into the market, well, that's 10 pounds of material that you got to get back on your farm.
Sure.
Like the simplest, probably the one that is most known to people is like, right, chickens eat their own eggs because like, right, that's a good calcium source. But like if you're selling eggs at the market, however many pounds of egg cells that you export out of your farm, you got to think about getting that calcium back, or else your eggshells on your chickens are going to slowly erode. So you really have to pay attention to the flows of every element. Like where am I getting phosphorus? Where am I getting nitrogen, calcium, magnesium? The only things you're getting for free are carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and you'll get a little bit of nitrogen if you plant a lot of legumes. Like aren't your Siberian pea shrubs legumes?
Yeah, I think they are technically, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, you think about that, just like, long term, like this is where like the industrial agriculture, kind of messes up. Like they live for the current harvest. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The structure of our agricultural system messed up in a lot of ways. It's tough being a farmer. Like you really do live season to season. And, but when you're thinking about long-term fertility, you have to think about these flows of material. Like if you're not keeping, like we said earlier, if you're not keeping enough calcium into your chicken coop, well, you're not going to get eggs. And then multiply that by, every single element, or at least the 26 natural elements.
Yeah. You It also works with building materials too. So I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing about my rocks that I have on the property. Like I'm just gathering all these rocks. When I dig a hole, it's more or less 50% rock. Um, I'm not even kidding. I did I measured it by volume, like this whole thing, blah blah blah. And so like, what am I gonna do with all this rock? Well, I could just like put it in a pile somewhere on the property, or I could use it as a resource, like a building material. So I'm making like this thing, like it's kind of like a retaining wall, and then like tiered up the side of the house, and then I'm gonna have this other retaining wall, and blah blah blah. So like I'm using fencing that I found at the dump when I was getting rid of a bunch of building materials that I couldn't use. It was completely full of nails. Um, I brought I brought this fencing back, and I'm making like a U shape to hold it all together. And I've got like some tie wire like in between to make sure the sides don't whatever. But I'm putting all the rock in there and putting it where I want it instead of just leaving it in a pile, just not doing anything. So now it's another resource.
Yeah, it's like, I try and save everything on the farm. Not like a experience the Great Depression, like saving tea bags, though I guess I do save tea bags because I put them in the compost pile. But like, right, we have a big rock pile, we have a lumber pile, like we have a log pile, like just, again, I probably do sound like one of those Great Depression lunatics, hoarders and stuff, but
Hey, they survived.
it is
I don't know
useful.
what's wrong with that.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I do it, but some people might think that. But like you said, that rock can be a retaining wall. Uh, so like that 600 square foot garden that I turned up, like right, I lined it with a couple trees, the edges. I lined it with a couple trees that I downed last year, plus some like old beat up lumber, just to like kind of make nice edge. Uh, uh, in fact, the very first garden bed I made last year, the previous owner had a burn pile, and she had lined the outside of it with cinder block, and it was a couple up, and she had a grate, so like it would burn nicely. One of the first things I do, because I'm not trying to like burn stuff unless I have to, is I just disassembled it, and I took all the cinder block and moved it over, and right laid down cardboard in the middle of it, threw some soil, some wood chips in there. That was the first garden bed, just reusing that cinder block as the edge, right? And maybe a lot of people would be like, what are we going to use this ton of cinder block for if not burn pile? I promise you, there is always a use. It's got to be a lot creative.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Um, so what would you tell people that would want to get started in homesteading?
Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
Like we said earlier, if it even is just a single herb garden in like a windowsill, if you're growing something, you're already growing more than the vast majority of Americans. Like, right? And just go from there. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. You just got to slowly add to it, learn by experience, read, watch YouTube, listen to podcasts. I firmly believe that, most people can do just about anything. Like, right, maybe you won't be a U.S. senator or like an astronaut or something, but if you want to go out and like have an acre garden, I believe you can do that. I believe, you can have influence in your community. You can, teach your kids a brand new subject. Um, like, so, I work as a scientist, like a biomedical engineer for a big pharmaceutical company. I never took a biology class in college. I was a chemistry philosophy major, but like, right, I needed a job to like pay for my books and stuff and pad out my resume because that's what college kids do. And there was this immunology lab, uh, and I applied for it, got the internship, and like, right, I went up to the the head of the lab, this big scientist, and I'm like, how do I learn immunology? And he's like, Immunobiology by Charles Janeway. And I look it up, and it's this like textbook. And so I just bought it, and I read it. And it wasn't fun. Like, I had to do it in front of my schoolwork, or along with my schoolwork. And I was taking notes on it, studying it, and I just learned it. Any subject that you want, it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. No one's saying it's easy. You want to learn about geology? Go to your local library. Watch some YouTube videos. You want to learn about veterinary care? Go to the library. Talk to them. Watch some YouTube videos. If you're listening to this, you can learn anything you want. Maybe not quantum mechanics or something, but just about anything. Just go and do it. Again, might not be easy. It might take a long time, but most of us are just learning along the way anyways.
Right.
So join us.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. I go into this immunology lab and start asking questions. Of course I'm an idiot. I'm the little college student that's trying to learn, but people are helpful. If you show an honest interest and you're just a nice person, people are so helpful. I don't know. I guess maybe if I racked my brain, I probably could call innocent. But for the most part, if you're just have integrity and look people in the eye, give them a firm handshake, and show an honest interest, you can accomplish so much in this life. Like I said with the pawpaw thing, I just emailed. I was like, hey, can I come help you? I read about you in this book about pawpaws, and I know there's a big harvest. Can I come help? And they were like, yeah. And now I'm friends with these people, and I'll really go out and help them with the harvest again. And right, just a quick email is all you need.
Yeah, I just made a phone call yesterday about I want to go to this guy's place and take a tour of his pig farm, ask him all the questions, right? Try to do a little bit more on-site stuff. But what I said was to attempt to compensate you for your time, I want to give you a hand, put me to work. Because I want to learn, but I also want to get you a little bit, I want to help you out too, not just suck up your time, your energy, right? Just time, energy, and money, right? That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be a drain on his time and his labor. I want to be able to at least make up for it, break even, if not being a little bit of the green. So
yeah. And again, as long as you're putting in the work, looking people in the eye, being honest, having integrity, people will help you. People will respect you. People we only have civilization, yada, 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 because we are social creatures. We are naturally helpful to one another. We all want each other's success. There's some misanthropes and psychopaths out there, but 99% of people are good, honest, hardworking people, as they say. And if you take an interest in whatever it is, that community will help you. I believe that.
Agreed. Was there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to mention, or did we pretty much cover everything?
I don't think we covered everything. We could probably keep on talking for a long time.
You probably could.
I want to hear more about Montana, because I'd never really been, except for that one drive through, and it's just fascinating out there. Again, intellectually, we were there in June. I understood that the sun is in the sky for a very long time. But then I'm we got a little cabin type thing outside of West Glacier, and I'm sitting on the little porch, and it's like 11:15, and like the sun's still kind of in the sky, and I'm just like mind blown.
11:15 at night.
It was something like it firmly in the double digits, and like
Yeah.
the sun had not fully set, and I was
Right.
like, this is wild.
I can't remember. I forgot to look it up. You just reminded me. There was a scientific reason. So like it's known as Big Sky, right? Big Sky country. There's a scientific reason why that the sky looks bigger here. It's something to do with like the altitude or which we're at, or the latitude, longitude, something. But I don't know. I can't remember. But I heard like a little quick blurb about it, but forgot to look it up. But it's moving here from Minnesota is it's like easy. Minnesota's humid, so like a negative 20 degrees here, negative 20 degrees in Minnesota is like way different. The humidity when it's cold really hurts. You're like step outside and like, man, that's cold. But if you're like the whole, why do I live in a place that where the air hurts my face? Like that's Minnesota. That's for sure Minnesota. And then also in the summer, it's the opposite, right? You're just like, ugh, I'm all sticky. It's gross. It's just, excuse me. It's just dry heat here. I mean, it'll knock you out if you don't take care of yourself. But yeah, it's super dry. Makes because it's dry, water's an issue too, right? And so we don't have any there's no real water on the property other than rain. And so we're working on doing some rain catchment off the house. And the long-term plan is to put in a pond somewhere. I think we have a good spot for it. But then also because water's a limited resource now, we only have the one well that feeds the house. We have to plant that hedgerow in sections. So I've got only 30, what did I say? Like a total of something like 30 plants in the back there that are going up. That covers 120 feet. I don't know. They're 5 feet apart. I can't remember what the distance is, but I have about 400 feet to cover linearly. And so it's going to take a couple of years to get all that going. So I'm going to get this first batch established, and then next year I'm going to plant another batch, and then the year after that plant another batch to not eat up all the resources at once. So that was the plan given to me.
That was one of the real surprising things, as born and raised on the East Coast, and then we moved west. It's like I think it's like the 98th meridian. Like you can see it on a map, Google Maps.
Yes.
You hit that line and it goes from green to brown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like everywhere west of that, water is the limiting reagent on everything.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, right, you hear about all the states along Colorado River just like fighting about water rights and stuff. And that's just because right, everyone knows like you can last 3 days without water, and like other than oxygen, it's the source of life. And yeah, out west, just like, right, we have humid summers here in Maryland, and then right, we move out to LA, and it's like I don't think I sweat for like unless I was exercising for like all 6 years, because like, right, it's just a arid heat. Like it just evaporates so quickly. But like you said, there's not that moisture buffer in the air. Like you don't get at least like in LA, it won't rain for like 8 months. Like I imagine you guys get a little more rain from that, and you have more snowpack. Yeah, anywhere out west, like water is what you're constantly fighting against.
Where I'm at, Our annual precipitation is like 15 to 20 inches a year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you guys are in the mountains, but like same rough latitude as Gabe Brown, and I think that's what like he got over in North Dakota.
Sure.
Like right, that was one of the reasons like he got into regenerative agriculture because there's like all these irrigation tiles and stuff just like shedding water during these hard rains. Like we got to
Yeah.
build up this humus in the soil so that like it can infiltrate.
Right.
But uh, there was a. Have you ever read the book Cadillac Desert by Mark Resner?
No. The name sounds familiar.
It's like this 550 thick book, small print, all about It's all about the history of water in the western half of the United States, and that sounds like really lame, probably to 99% of people. But I promise you, it's like much more entertaining than you think it is. Like
Sure.
I learned so much from that book, and like he talks about all the dams, like all the major rivers, like the history of the fighting, like how like who was it? I think it was Mulholland got like the water to Los Angeles that made Los Angeles possible.
Mm.
Like all the power plants that we built on the Snake River, I think it was. Uh, I remember I could be misquoting this. It was something like we built via the dams on the Snake. Pretty sure it was the Snake. They generated more power in like their first year of operation than all of the Axis powers generated throughout all of World War II. Like right. I mean, because right, the rivers out west are like, of course, the Mississippi gets all the play because like right, it's the biggest. But like the Colorado, the Snake, the one that runs through Oregon, like those are big, powerful rivers. Like
Yeah.
it's not like the Susquehanna or the Potomac, which are like major rivers, but like they don't generate the type of force that those rivers get from the snowpack out in the Sierra Nevadas and Colorado.
Right.
Like, but yeah, fascinating. But Cadillac Desert.
I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm gonna write that down.
And if you like fiction, there's like a neo-noir, like sci-fi crime drama called The Water Knife by Paolo Bagucciano or something. That one, this guy's like he's like a bounty hunter for like these, like business lords. But it's in like a semi-futuristic United States. But water has gotten so scarce in the West that like that is the money. Like that is the gold. Like everything's about water rights. And like, right, it's like a neo-noir sci-fi.
Sure.
It's just like real interesting. Like, especially like when you read the news about all these states like fighting over water rights and stuff. You're like, oh, are we getting a little close to this novel? Maybe a little too close?
Right. Yeah. I think they say the first recorded murder in Montana was over water.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. Like, again, like out west, like it's all about water. That's your limiting reagent.
Yeah, that's right. Well, man, it's getting late for both of us. So you want to tell people where they can find you? You have a Substack, right? Tell them about your Substack.
So the Substack is thecounterpoint.substack.com. I write about anything that comes across my mind. Not as much as I'd like, but I'm trying to get back into it after, settling into life with the newborn and stuff. And then the only other place is on Twitter at Patrick Heizer. I don't have any other social medias, just Twitter and the Substack.
I like the Substack. I was quickly browsing your master plan for your property. It kind of lays out a couple of specific details that we covered today as well, but a little bit more visual and some diagrams and stuff. So that was nice.
Yes, if you can tolerate my terrible Microsoft Paint edits, there are pictures on that. And I invite anyone to, comment on it, critique it. Like, I'm a scientist by trade. Whole name of the game in science is do your work, publish it as detailed as possible, and like get it critiqued by the entire scientific community. And so like, right, I take that same approach with my farm. Like I don't know what I'm doing really when it comes down to it. Like I'm constantly reading, watching YouTube, scroll on Twitter, talking to people like yourself and other people on quote unquote agriculture Twitter, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to learn and improve. And so like, right, if you see something, if you think that you can improve that plan, you see something wrong with it, please let me know. Like I want it to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Like, hey, I'm only thinking what I don't know what I don't know, right? So please help me.
Yes, please help. And if you or anyone listening is ever in Western Maryland, come on by, stop at the door. If it's in pawpaw season, I'll get you some pawpaw. Chestnut season, we'll get you chestnuts.
That sounds great, man. It was really nice meeting you.
Yeah, great talking with you. And looking forward to see what we build on our respective lands over the coming years.
Yes. Keep taking pictures. We need that recording. So see how far we've come, right?
Like I said, I don't have Instagram or anything else. So like I just put it all on Twitter, pictures, everything. And yeah, like it will be, I'm starting, there's that old adage, you underestimate, or no, you overestimate what you can do in a year. You underestimate what you can do in a decade. And even though I feel perpetually behind, like I'm really in this second growing season, I'm really starting to like see what consistent work at one project over a long time can possibly do. It's still very much a work in progress, but like I'm starting to see it, and that's really rewarding.
Yeah. It just takes patience. That's all. But hey, I appreciate you and your time, and I appreciate everybody for listening. So have a good night, Patrick.
Yes, you too, man.
Thank you. I am Matt DeRozier of Farm Hop Life. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and visit farmhoplife.com.
Inside of the city, the people are crazy. Out of their minds, they ain't got a clue. We gone away, headed west for Montana. Left family and friends, all I got now is you. We both got new jobs, a house and a homestead, thinking this was the life, all that there'd be. After our firstborn, you had to stay home. That's when the work got in the way for me. Well, I started Farm Hop Life. We'll come to your farm to help and to wander. Me and the family, a truck and an RV. Send us a message and